Good morrow to you all. You have fallen on bad times.
Brought to you by the Royal Holloway Shakespeare Society.
You join me, Theo Dudridge.
And me, Subhan Hay, as we bear some bardy truths. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bard Times. And this week, I'm here with Vicky. Sorry, I should say your full name. Did you want to introduce yourself, Vicky?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Victoria Green-Armytage, and I'm a third-year drama and film student.
Brilliant. So, this week I wanted to talk to you about editing and producing, because you've been such an important part of the last two productions that we've made of Shakespeare plays, and because of the pandemic they've had to be online. So Hamlet and Measure for Measure, so far, like, already that's quite a lot for your CV. So what was it like editing Hamlet, first of all?
Yeah, so Hamlet was obviously the first one. So it was very like in a learning curve, because you had to try, and it was the first time anyone had tried to put together a filmed thing with the Shakespeare Society. So we had to kind of work out as we were going, but it went pretty well. So basically everyone recorded via Zoom, and then I got all of the Zoom stuff, and I kind of spliced them together as best we could, and it was more of like kind of a filmed performance, I'd say, rather than like a proper like film, which is kind of more what the Measure for Measure thing was. And so yeah, and obviously that one didn't have any music, so there was less to do in terms of that. But yeah, and then some people did extra like recordings just with their phones and things as well. And so I started editing them together. And yeah, in terms of the editing program that I used a program called Avid for that. And
we all love Avid. Oh,
yeah,
God.
and the reason we're laughing is because we've had so many difficulties with Avid. But yeah, moving on from that, with that one was there wasn't as much of like the extra stuff to do with that. It was just more balancing the sounds to make sure that, you know, one person wasn't speaking a lot louder than other people, and making sure that it cut as seamlessly as we could. And one of the good things about that one is because it was filming everyone like the entire time, it was easier to get like reaction shots from everyone. Because when you're filming, you have to like, you know, reset up the camera for various reaction shots, and like, because obviously, you know, you normally film on a quite tight schedule. You normally sometimes you don't manage to get everyone, or like, you know, you'll get reaction shots for some people but not others, or you'll have like a wide or whatever. It at least meant that you had a lot of footage that you could that you could choose from.
Yeah. That being said, there were a few scenes that they were filmed in a way that was planned more as a film than a filmed play. So, for example, the scenes that I worked on, I was lucky enough to be able to work on like Act 1, Scene 2, and those were just filmed by the actors themselves and then sent in, and then we had to put them in together. So like Ruben, who played Claudius, did his scene, and then Tom Van, who played Hamlet, did his scene, and then I had to put it together. And then there was Bernice's brilliant Gertrude as well.
Yeah.
And then it's so weird thinking that they didn't have each other they just did their lines, held a space for us to edit someone else in, which they didn't need to because we could just edited it in. There was so many moments of them just like looking to the camera, just waiting for the other actor to speak, and I was like, I could just edit this in. You don't need to do this. But
yeah,
I was wondering how much of that do you think has influenced how you worked on Measure for Measure? Because there is quite a difference. There's scenes where, you know, what I've just described, where actors film themselves and send them in. But then there's scenes, as you were talking about, which we did on Zoom, where they have the live reactions of each other.
Yeah, well, I mean, the difference obviously between that and Measure for Measure is because everything was in person. You had like the directors who would like make sure that things were like set up and everything like that. And I think it's a very different thing directing people over Zoom or getting them to do it themselves, because rather than doing it in person, because it's a lot more difficult to get exactly what you want.
Understood. Yeah. So you said earlier that Hamlet was like a learning curve for you. So what do you think that you sort of, because of working on Hamlet, what do you think you have gone ahead to do differently in Measure for Measure and any other projects that you've worked on?
A lot of it was like planning and things, which and making sure that you got things done like kind of as quickly as possible and allowing more time for stuff. And yeah, and then I learned a few like technical things as well. But I did also learn stuff before Hamlet, because I did some of the audio dramas.
Oh yeah, Macbeth, I think.
Yeah, Macbeth and The Massacre at Paris.
Oh wow, okay. So you, before even coming onto these shows and offering to be an editor, I assume you got some training somewhere, and I was just wondering where you got the training and where you learned how to edit.
Well, for the video editing, I did an editing module as part of my course, which is where I learned how to use Avid, because that was the one that they were teaching us how to use, because that's like, apparently it's like the industry standard that people use. And then for the sound editing, I use Reaper, which is a program that I learned to use a little bit in my final year of A-levels, because as part of my A-levels I did an EPQ, which is like an extended project qualification, and as part of that I had to edit some music. And so my supervisor for that was one of the like media teachers, so he taught me how to use that. But then sometimes I only learnt like a basic level of that, using that, and then I learnt more through like trial and error. And sometimes YouTube videos are very useful in learning how to sort like specific stuff.
Yeah. It really interests me because ever since I've been working on shows with you, people like Conor McLennan and all that have made it very clear that there's a distinction between video editing and sound editing.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize. I thought, okay, because you're talking about using Reaper and Avid. So is there any obvious difference between sound editing and, other than obviously that you're working with sound rather than video, but what stops you from editing sound in a video editing software?
Well, sometimes generally the video editing software will let you sort the sound a little bit, like it'll let you fade sound in and out and like set the sound level. But the reason that Reaper is quite useful is that you can put some like effects on and stuff. Like when I was doing the audio dramas on there, I would use some of the effects on Reaper to get rid of like the white noise that would be on the soundtrack, on the sound files that I would get in. And then sometimes like there would be, it's kind of hard to describe, but when you record things in rooms of different sizes, there's the echo, and if the echo is slightly different for different people's recordings, then you can kind of notice that, and there are various like effects on Reaper that you can use to try and fix that. To an extent, you can't get rid of it completely.
Oh, that's quite interesting actually. Okay, that makes sense. So like in films, I don't know if I'll be able to explain this as well right now, but it's like that they've maybe because someone got sick, or maybe because they wanted to reshoot a scene, for a fact that one scene has been filmed in multiple locations, but it's meant to be in one scene within the story. And I guess from what you're saying, Reaper and these sorts of softwares are what help them to keep a consistency so it feels like they're in the same room the whole time when they're actually not. So what's quite interesting to me, I mean, I've noticed this like throughout the past year, is that editing, as important as it obviously is, it's becoming more and more important, and it's becoming more and more like a career option for people. So I was wondering what you were thinking about that, because every YouTuber seems to be wanting to hire their own editor nowadays, and obviously there's more and more films coming out and that sort of thing. So how do you feel about this emergence of the importance of editing?
Yeah, no, I think it's really good because when in the editing like module we're doing, they talk about how editing can change the story quite a lot, and how like the story is written like kind of 3 times during the process, like when it's obviously first being written, and then when it's filmed, and then when it's edited, you can like change the story in those 3 times. And then I think also especially in big budget films, no one talks about the editors. Like, if you think about, I don't know, like the Marvel films or whatever, you talk about the directors, maybe but mainly you'll talk about the actors, and then maybe the like costume and design and stuff. But like, one of the things that they said, like if an editor's job is done well, then you don't notice it.
Exactly, that's the thing, and it's just like you don't notice it, and people don't congratulate like editors, which is a good point that you've made. It's like I wanted to hear about like any experience that you've had where you're making something and then throughout editing it's been made. So I don't know if I'm asking that right, so I can give my example recently. I'm sure I can talk about this because I'm going to be doing something for Shakespeare Sock soon, but for Player Sock, which is the other committee I'm in, I created this trailer. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh yeah, I did.
So
it's very good.
I mean, a lot of people said, okay, it's really good, but I'll be completely honest, that wasn't planned. I don't want anyone to think that I sat down and calculated it all. I legit recorded myself picking up a Hulk and doing stuff. But when I exported all that stuff onto my computer, that's when I, made it. Like I sat down and I was like, maybe I could have little dark bits, little black bits in the middle, and then I could add like suspense music, this and that, and it all gets made in the editing room. So I was wondering if there's any experience that you've had like that where you're not really sure what you're making, but it gets made in the editing room.
I mean, I remember one of the first projects that we had to do for my the editing module was that we were supposed to make like this commercial for a yacht, which was the most random thing, but we were given like basically loads of footage of this really like posh yacht, like from the outside, some like from the inside of the different rooms, and we were supposed to put it together into some kind of trailer or commercial for it. And I found that like quite difficult because there was no like script to follow or anything like that, but it was, like you said, it was one of those things that you kind of end up putting together in the kind of editing process. And like you had to have like at least a vague idea, in that I was like, okay, I'm going to start from the outside and then kind of zoom in and then go through the different rooms and then kind of zoom out, use the exterior footage again, zooming out at the end. Like I had that, I come up with that vague idea before I started properly editing. But then other than that, I kind of just separated the footage into like the interior, exterior, and then kind of into the different rooms. And then just used that and went from there.
Okay. Yeah, so that really does show the power of editing. Like legit, if like an actor, if I see the filming in front of me, they can make so many mistakes and they can sneeze and they can stutter, they can do whatever. But when it comes to the real thing, once it's been edited, it looks like they make it look easy. But yeah, it should be made clear that it's the editors that make it so. And when I was trying to get into editing, I thought, okay, it must be something that's a bit difficult, but it can't be that hard. It can't be that annoying. But now I've just learned that it's like, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's so tedious. I just wanted to know what you feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, it does take a very long time.
For a tiny scene as well.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I kind of go through things where, like, I start it and I'm really, really excited about it. And then, like, you start getting, but once you've been doing editing for, like, a couple of hours and stuff, then you're like, okay, I've had enough now. And
Yeah.
it's not something that you can, like, spend a really long time at once doing. You can spend, like, a couple of hours and then you got to, like, at least take a bit of a break and then come back to it.
Yeah,
Especially
it
when
is
you're
good advice.
looking at the same footage over and over again.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, and just it's not even looking; it's the hearing it again and again that really just ticks me. It's that you hear it again and again, and then you stop working, you turn your laptop off, and you can still hear it in your head. It's just it gets too much sometimes, but I guess it's all worth it. But I'd really like to see if any software developers could find some way to make it less and less tedious, because I think I've used Avid as because we were working on Measure for Measure, Adobe Premiere, and I've used Final Cut. But I have to say, out of all three, Apple just because Apple being Apple, they've just made the nicest interface and all that stuff. But still, it is a bit tedious. It's not that different from, like, say, Premiere Pro or whatever. But I wanted to ask you, what was it like working on Measure for Measure? So, with all the things that you'd learned from Hamlet, because Measure for Measure was now an actual film now. So this was something that, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is probably something that you've actually, like, this is specifically what you've trained for, like, so editing film rather than editing a filmed play or whatnot. Am I right in saying that?
I mean, it was mainly like for editing films. Like, we did a few like trailery kind of things as well. Like, we had to.
Oh, which was brilliant. Honestly, I have to add that it was like an industry standard trailer. It was so good.
Well, but we as part of my editing course, we learned how to do a few trailers as well. But then we did the main one of our big projects at the end of last year was this, like, 20-minute short film that we had to do, and we had, like, a script for it and stuff, and we had to put the pieces together. So yeah, that is kind of what I trained for. But yeah.
Okay. So this time there were a few unfortunately some difficulties came through. So there was, like, I think some issues with the audio and whatnot, which again very clearly is not reflective of your ability, but it is a reflective of, like, what the softwares are at this point. So, like, Avid and whatnot, they're just not good at exporting and that sort of thing. And it's just like, hopefully we can, because it's this thing that I've been hearing about Avid being this industry standard for a very long time. Like, when I was getting into editing myself a few years ago, I kept hearing about Avid and it being an industry standard. But there's a lot of forums where people are like, yeah, but we're going to use this. And then you sort of get this confidence to, like, follow them as well and be like, yeah, we're not going to use Avid.
Yeah.
But now that I've gotten to uni and I see that, oh, yes, they're still doing that, it is a bit of a thing where it's like, I just wanted to hear what your opinion on that.
I mean, I think the reason that that we were having trouble with it is because we were trying to do it on, we weren't using, like, the full version. In that we were using, like, the free version, which obviously isn't going to be as good, but also we were using it on laptops which have a lot, which, although I think I've got a pretty good laptop, like, it doesn't have quite you need to have, like, a certain storage and, like, hard drive capacity in order for Avid to run at, like, its full potential. But even, like, with in the computer labs where they have the full version of Avid, like, obviously I've used them and it's a lot better than using it on your laptop, because they've got the full version and it works more, like, properly. But I mean, sometimes it is a little bit annoying on the computers, but generally it works properly. And I think that's why, because in, like, the professional films and stuff, they've got, like, the best computers, the best they've paid for the top editing software versions, then that's why like it's a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think I'm allowed to say this, but I think because you've got a new cut of Measure for Measure coming out soon.
Yeah.
So all the all of the stuff will be fixed and everything. But even without that, I don't know if the new cut will be out by the time this episode comes out. But if it's not, even the original is brilliant just for like the church scenes, because like I was watching it and I was like, okay, this is a student film. First of all, props to Meadow for getting the idea together and getting the actors together and having a camera, just her phone camera, which has inspired me personally, because this year I was like, I'm gonna buy a camera, but I'm like, no, I just need my phone. Yeah, that's what I need.
And I think the concept for the Measure for Measure was so cool. It was such a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I can say this, but I'm gonna say it. I was on the bid panel, and like when we got it, I was like, whoa, like a Netflix style crime drama, crime documentary. And yeah, like obviously, guys, if you're listening to this and you're going, what is that? Check it out. It's on Royal Holloway University London Shakespeare Society YouTube channel. And yeah, just for I was talking about the church scenes, like I didn't expect you guys, because again I was saying it's a student-led film. You guys did color grading and just the ways that you edited the scenes together. It was like an orchestra, if that makes sense. It was like it flowed so well. Then the scenes where you had Tom Barrett like sort of walk in, you have his footsteps and all that sort of thing. It was just so well done. So what was it like editing those? Because the church scenes in particular were what was stuck with me.
Yeah, the church scene, the ones in the scenes in the chapel were kind of very difficult to sound edit because of the echo. Mm-hmm. And for particularly between like the wide shots and the closer shots, the sound was very different. So you had to try and balance the sound out as best you can. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the one thing I was really glad about with this one is because we used music. You can use the music to hide a lot of to like kind of make the sound overall a lot smoother, because it hides a lot of white noise, and it just helps a lot.
No, I really noticed that, and I think it did a really good job of masking, like, because you're right, there are going to be bits where like you've got like Tom's footsteps and then it cuts to him standing behind like a stand, and you can hear his echoes and stuff. But still, for a student-led film, it was eye-catching is the word I will use, because you're sort of left like wondering, how did you guys do this? Like, I know you're explaining it now, but at the time it just didn't make sense to me. It was like, okay, you've done a good job of masking the sound. It flows. It's just those scenes in particular really stood out to me. And yeah, obviously it's unfortunate all the problems that you guys have faced, but honestly, I think in the face of what you guys have achieved, it's nothing compared to that. So and the new cut's coming out soon, so I think it's just going to be in my opinion, it's the best thing that the Royal Holloway Shakespeare Society has produced, and yeah, it's really good, and it's all props to your editing team, honestly. And this should be made clear, guys. Editors are what make the art what it is. So moving on from editing, I wanted to, because I was surprised to know that you've done producing. Mm-hmm. So you've worked on Legally Blonde and another MTS show. Legally Blonde is an MTS show, right?
Yeah, and Supercar. I was the shadow producer on Legally Blonde, and then I produced Supercar, which was like the first year MTS show. Not last year, but the year before. And then I was producer on Measure for Measure as well. But obviously, being an online show, there's not as much that you need to do for that.
Mm-hmm. I do need to learn personally what producing is about. So let's start from the beginning. What was it like shadowing on Legally Blonde?
So shadowing was really fun, because it's like you don't have any of the responsibility, but like you just get given like stuff to do. And I remember, because I went to all of the fundraisers, and then I went to and I wrote a quiz for it, and then I also during the actual performances I was backstage helping out, and then I was like on the door as well, collecting people's money, selling programs, and stuff like that, which was fun.
Okay, all right. So that sounds interesting. So what would you say? So your role is more of as you were a sort of a helper, as a producer.
Yeah, well, but the producer also manages like the show's budget,
Okay.
as well. So when you do the bid, you write the budget, and you have to work out like how much you can expect to get from ticket sales, depending on like which venue you're planning to be in, and then how much programs are going to cost, and then you have to work out how much props and costumes are going to cost, and particularly. I mean, for Shakespeare Society, it's not a problem, but for for MTS, you need to make sure you've budgeted in the money to buy the rights for whatever show you're doing.
Understood. Yeah.
From wherever you're going to get them from, and and then you have to pay for the rental of like the music, the books, and the scripts and stuff. And so you have to sort out the budget, and then you organise the fundraisers.
Yeah. So, did you help with any particular fundraisers that you remember from your first year?
So yeah, I'm just trying to think for the Superkart one. We did a Mario Kart tournament, which is good fun. And I came second in that one, and I was beaten by Finley, which I was very upset about.
Oh wow! Oh my god! I won a Mario Kart tournament now. Oh my god!
Yes,
I really want.
We should do another one as a fundraiser at some point.
What a brilliant idea!
But it was only because of the theme of the show was Mario Kart. But yeah, we did that, and then we went to the one of the rooms above the pack horse, I think, and we did a quiz, I think, and an auction of promises.
Wow.
And then
See, someone like me who's never been to an in-person thing, this sounds like so amazing. Like my auction of promises and stuff has just been on Zoom. But sorry for interrupting. What were you saying?
No, I was saying I think we did another fundraiser as well, but I can't remember what the third one is. What we did for the third one. Oh, that's annoying me now. I can't remember. But yeah, they're normally like like showing films and stuff, and or like I think for Legally Blonde they did a skipathon.
Skipathon.
Yeah, where people like they were doing skipping for 12 hours straight, and they'd switch between all the different cast and crew.
I'm sorry, skipping as in skipping?
Like using a skipping rope.
Oh my god, for 12 hours straight?
Not actually, yeah, it was a lot. But
oh my god.
But everyone did I think a 15-minute slot or something, because they had quite a big cast and crew. So
Vicky, I got exhausted from our readathon, and you're talking about skipathons.
Yeah, no, it was good fun, but tiring.
Something that really stood out to me that you were talking about is buying the rights. So I know as Shakespeare stock, we don't really have to worry about that because Shakespeare doesn't belong to anyone. I think it's quite a poetic statement, but it's true as well. But so for other shows, so say for example something MTS does, you would have to buy the rights for that. And I'm just intrigued by how difficult that is, because surely as aspiring actors, aspiring theatre workers here at university, we should have the freedom, I think, to at least make it accessible for us to buy the rights.
Yeah, I mean, there are various websites that you can look and see what shows you can get the rights on. I think there's like MTI Europe or something that you can buy the rights for. I think that's where they got the Legally Blonde one from.
So are these the rights for the plays and like the songs as well?
Yeah, for the script and the songs, and it's like performance rights basically.
Okay, that makes sense, because you are making money off of it, because that makes sense. Yes, okay, I understood. All right. So we've talking about, I think, your first year. In your first year you did the Mario Kart one, and Legally Blonde. Am I correct in saying that? Which both sound so amazing, especially with all the events that you fundraised, that you did for fundraisers. So, what was it like transferring all your skills to Measure for Measure? I know you said you didn't do as much, but I'm just intrigued to know what you managed to do on Zoom.
So yeah, for Measure, we did the readathon, which was really cool to do an in-person fundraiser, more or less, and then we did the auction of promises. I think those were the only two that we had to do because obviously being an online show, you don't have to pay for the venue, you don't have to. And we literally the only thing we needed to get the money for was for the props and costume. Okay. So we didn't need to do as much fundraising, but yeah, it was kind of weird because I've not run any online events before, so that was like, you know, a thing for me that I was like kind of nervous about, but. I think, but yeah, the auction of promises and stuff was good fun, and we made it into like the big launch party event, and then we managed to do the other one in person, which is really good.
That was really good. Yeah, it was great that we managed to finally meet up, and it wasn't just like a launch party for Measure, but it was also an opportunity for people who've never met each other to meet, which was automatically just amazing. And I just wanted to know, firstly, for editing, if you have any tips for beginners.
I mean, the thing I would say is to download an editing software and start trying to work out how to use it. And then the other thing is, online on like YouTube and stuff, there are a lot of like tutorials and things where you can kind of at least get a grip of like the basics, as in like how to get the footage into the editing program and then get them onto like a timeline and start, you know, cutting them and stuff. Even without doing like, you know, super complicated stuff. Just like, you know, splicing the thing together. And I'd say like try learning how to use the software first of all, or find someone who will teach you how to use the software. And then and go from there. And because a lot of what I was finding is that it's with the editing, there are obviously the only rules and stuff is like how to use the software, because a lot of it is like instinctual or stuff you've got to kind of work out. Like obviously there's a big thing is like continuity, but that's something that if you just need to like pay close attention to the details, and then you've also got to hope that the footage you get does have good continuity as well, and that the actors are doing the same thing the same way in each scene, and then it's just about making it as continuity as possible. And then I think there's another rule that's like the 180 degree rule, which is that when you cut like 180 degrees. You don't cut on any other angles unless you're cutting to something completely different. But yeah. I just wanted to get, because I keep hearing on 180 degree, but so is this like a one-on-one conversation that two people are having? I think so. I mean, I just remember that, like, you know, being talked about is that in that you kind of try not to cut to like, try not to cut to, you know, strange angles, and that you're cutting from one person to another, like not completely straight, but like, yeah.
That makes sense. And also, you know, another thing is that once you know the rules, you can break the rules. So, for example, at the 180 rule that you're talking about, I've been watching this comedy group called Auntie Donna. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they do this thing where they're having like a serious discussion, but it cuts into like weird angles. So like it may cut into like someone's forehead, or it might cut into like half of someone's like lower face. And it's like they're having a serious discussion, but you can't help but laugh. And I think that's just a good example of how you should know the rules, but like knowing the rules is
Yeah.
not something that you should be bound by. It's knowing that, okay, this is a rule, so if I break it, then the audience will be like, it's a good technique
Yeah,
to
you've gotta-
to mess with the audience.
Yeah, you can break them to create a specific effect, and then you've got to look at that and then see whether it actually works or not, and then
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also another important thing is like editing is not just the editor's job. Like as you were saying with continuity, if the actor sends you something that doesn't match up with continuity, then there's not much you can do about that as an editor. It's something
Yeah.
that the actors need to have in mind as well when they're working, especially if it's like an online production, that where you're less likely to be able to reshoot and that sort of thing. So did you have any beginner's advice for a producer then?
For a producer, I mean, I don't really know in terms of what you could try to start producing, but I guess like if you're at uni and stuff, try and get involved with lots of shows and stuff as much as you can, and then like, you know, you could always, if you are putting together a show, you look at other, because what I did when I was putting together the first budget, and when I do put together budgets, is that I've got copies of like other budgets, and I kind of use that to and learn stuff from that, and put it and use that to put it together, particularly when it comes to like how much certain events are, you know, are thought would be the amount of money that certain events would get. You look at some of the other budgets and see what those events they said that they would get, and then you use that to work out what you would get.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, because I think the budgets, that's the most intimidating thing for me, at least. It's just you look at a spreadsheet and you're like, what is going on? So I think, yeah, looking at what other people have done, that's good advice. And that, you know, I was thinking earlier, I think with the advice that you were giving to just download an editing software and learn the stuff, I genuinely believe, because like if you just like sit down and look at some job applications, it's like editing softwares are becoming the new Excel. You know how they need you to have like Excel and PowerPoint knowledge and whatnot. There's so many jobs where they're like, you should have some sort of knowledge of like how an editing software works. So I think, you know, you were very right to say that.
Yeah.
In your spare time, you should make sure that you just get the basic gist of it.
And there's another thing as well, that we got offered to take the like this Avid test, which is, it's basically like a test on the software and what the different like buttons and stuff are, and if you pass it, then that's something you can put on your CV, and it's like apparently quite good for getting into editing. And so we were allowed. I didn't end up taking it, but we did have the option to take it through the uni. I don't know how you would take it otherwise, but I'm assuming that, you know, you just if you look online, you'd be able to find a way of taking it, and you probably have to pay a certain amount, but you'd probably be able to find a way of taking it.
And as well as that, if you can't take the Avid test, I think just having a show reel of what you've made would also, if not, probably be better than an Avid test, because, you know, it just shows initiative and that sort of thing. So I was wondering if you have any particular plans for this coming year, which I am so excited for. Hopefully this podcast could age very badly when I say I hope COVID doesn't come around.
We hope
again.
that we'll be in person, but we will see.
We'll see.
I mean, my main thing is that I want to get back into the acting side of things, because although I've loved being like the producer and editor, I want to try something different. And so my plan for this year is to just audition for as many things as possible, and see what shows I get in.
Okay, perfect. All right, that's brilliant. And thank you so much for your time, Vicky. It's been so great talking to you, and take care.
Thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of Bard Times. I've been Subhan, and in the words of the Bard, love all, trust a few, do wrong to none.